Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing well as usual. So I'm back today with another video. This time it's a response video, which is one created by Quest4Metal, so otherwise known as Questy. A lot of you are familiar with his channel, I'm sure. He's a guy from the UK who does all kinds of videos, like a lot of sort of opinion-based videos, talking about rankings and doing his top 10 or top 20, in terms of metal albums. So he's into all genres of metal, I think, pretty much, or a lot that I'm into anyway. And his videos are always really interesting and delivered with quick, sharp wit as well. So I find them very entertaining. And he just did one recently about his A to Z of favorite bands. So listing one favorite band from each alphabetical letter. And I thought that's a really interesting idea because it gives everyone a snapshot or overview of your musical tastes. So having said that, I did about 4 years ago, I did a response video to Devon from Maze of Torment, and his video was called My Top 10 Favorite Bands. So I have already done that, and I think most of those 10 bands will be included in today's list. And if they're not, either my opinions changed or, sometimes there were multiple bands within a letter, but in today's video it has to be one per letter. And I think it's a really interesting idea just because there's a variety of genres covered. So yes, we will do that, talking about favorite bands. And just to let you know, I might mention some runners-up. Before I begin, I'd just like to say, please don't take offense to this, but I always welcome comments from people, and that's great. It's interesting, it gets discussion going. But if you mention any of the bands, it probably sounds like I'm being a picky bitch, but if you mention any of the bands, try and say something of substance about them. Like, don't just say, good to see band X, band X, band X, listing all the bands, because obviously, if you do that, then it gives away all of my answers, and maybe other people actually want to watch the video and, make it interesting, hopefully. And in addition to that, I'm not just doing a list, I'm talking about runners-up and giving some commentary. So yeah, comments are always welcome, but just don't list all the bands I've mentioned. And please don't be a killjoy and do that just because I said don't do it. All right, so without further ado, we will get into it. So talking about the letter A. So if you're new to the channel, you'll quickly realize that most of the music I listen to is hard rock and heavy metal, but it's over a variety of genres. So there are so many brilliant bands, as Questy said, regarding the letter A. Some of my favorites include Abigor, as well as AC/DC and Accept. But talking about in terms of frequency of listening and how many albums I own, that's how I chose my favorite band from each letter. For A, for me, it has to be Autopsy. So they need no introduction. One of the kings of old school death metal, kind of very dark death doom, and they've been around since 1987. This is my favorite album by them, Acts of the Unspeakable, and they're an absolutely classic death metal band. Yeah. Okay, coming to letter B. Again, B has a lot of fantastic bands. I could mention Beherit from Finland, except to be honest, there's only one album by them which I really like a lot, which is Drawing Down the Moon. They have some other interesting ones, and I'm not really a fan of the rawer stuff, although it's okay. There's also the Swedish black speed metal band, Bewitched. I've got the poster up there. Fantastic band, I absolutely love them. As well as the hair metal band Black and Blue, also the American death metal band Broken Hope. But for me, my absolute favorite under B would be Burzum. So again, probably needs no introduction to most people, the one-man black metal band from Norway. So that's the, performed by Varg Vikernes, and everyone knows his history, so he's a controversial figure because of his activities and the views he's expressed over the years. But when it comes down to the music, it's absolutely brilliant, and that's why I listen to this band. This is my favorite album by Burzum, Visli Sed Tar Os, but I really like them all. I even like the ambient electronic ones, which he recorded in prison, but this is my absolute favorite. So remember, as Fenriz said, he was right on the money with the black metal sound. So yes, Burzum for B. Okay, now coming up to letter C, another letter where there are a lot of bands I could have chosen. Some of my favorite bands beginning with C include Carpathian Forest, the Norwegian black metal band, in addition to Cathedral. They always hold a special place in my heart, the doom metal band from the UK. How could I not mention Cradle of Filth? That was Questy's favorite for C, and I really like them a lot, as well as Cruel Force, the German black thrash metal band. But for C, it may seem cliched and predictable, but I had to go with Cannibal Corpse, again based on how many albums I own and how frequently I listen to them. So again, probably the most famous brutal death metal band of all time, but it's a well-deserved status, I think, and I absolutely love all of their albums. This is my favorite, Eaten Back to Life, which was their first album. But right through to the present day, they've been a very solid and consistent death metal band. So Cannibal Corpse. Okay, coming up to letter D, another letter with so many fantastic bands. I could have chosen Dark Funeral, the Swedish black metal band. They were in my top 10 bands of all time, but we're limited to one per letter in this video. In addition to Deicide, one of my favorite death metal bands of all time, but for D, I absolutely had to go with Dark Throne. This is my favorite album by them, Under a Funeral Moon. So yes, cold Norwegian black metal, but as everyone knows, they started as a death metal band and now they sort of evolved into their own sound where they're sort of melding classic heavy metal, punk, doom metal, thrash metal, you know, and still retaining elements of black metal, but a really interesting band. And they have this kind of underground savvy charm which still resonates to this day. So Dark Throne. Okay, coming up to the letter E, again, a letter with so many fantastic bands. I could have chosen Emperor, the origin of symphonic black metal. I could have chosen Enslaved as well. I absolutely love Enslaved, except I have to admit, I prefer their earlier stuff, you know, the black and Viking metal. The newer, more progressive stuff I don't get into as much, but it still has its good moments. But for E, the one solid, consistent band for me is Enthroned from Belgium. So Belgian black metal with a unique twist. These guys were mainly inspired by Marduk, but also retained some of the classic 80s heavy metal and thrash metal sound, which is interesting. Like when I say thrash metal, inspired by bands like Creator and Sodom as well, and they also incorporate acoustic guitars and keyboards for atmosphere. This band has a long discography, but I love all of the albums. So Enthroned, check them out if you're a black metal a black metal fan and you haven't heard this band. All right, coming up to letter F. Okay, this one, I don't listen to many bands beginning with F, so I could have chosen Faustian Pact, the Finnish black metal band. That's absolutely excellent melodic black metal, very reminiscent of the mid-90s, but I only own one album by them. So like by default, for me under F, it has to be Fear Factory. Like this is some 90s nostalgia. When I was in high school, like the last couple of years of high school and the first couple of years of university, my friends and I listened to this band a lot, and I still enjoy it to this day, like just as a nostalgia trip to the late 90s. And probably my favorite album by them is Demanufacture, like most people, but all of their albums good. I even like Remanufacture. This is Fear is the Mind Killer, sort of industrial, high-tech, modern metal, you could call it. Too many labels these days, but yeah, Fear Factory. All right, coming up to the letter G, another letter with so many great bands. Like, let's see here, I could have chosen Goatmoon, the Finnish black metal band. They're controversial for their political views, but the music is excellent. Also, there's Gorefest, the Dutch death metal band, or the brutal US death metal band Gorgasm, I really like a lot. But for G, my absolute favorite band has to be Graveland, the one-man Polish black metal band. So it started out as kind of raw black metal, but then it evolved into sort of epic, symphonic, pagan, Viking black metal. But this one is The Fire of Awakening. My favorite album by Graveland is Creed of Iron, of course, but I'm just showing CDs today. Creed of Iron I own on record, but I'm showing CDs when I can just to speed this up. But if you like black metal and you haven't checked out Graveland, definitely do. All right. Coming up to the letter H now. So again, I don't listen to many bands beginning with the letter H, but it doesn't matter because my choice is glaringly obvious. Horna or Horna from Finland. So again, a black metal band. So black metal is my favorite genre. This is the demo, Hidden Tawny, which is kind of like an album length one. If you don't know Horna, they are primarily inspired by Norway's Gorgoroth, I think, but they have their own unique sound, definitely. And I know this band is criticized a lot by some people for being sort of like maybe overrated or kind of run-of-the-mill black metal, but I have to say, like, in some ways, yes, like it's not groundbreaking, but whenever I listen to Horna, there's always this tremendous level of satisfaction just in the riffs and the vocals and everything. It's really sort of like bombastic and harsh and abrasive, yet still melodic and catchy. So yeah, if you like Gorgoroth, definitely check them out. Sort of the better aspects of Gorgoroth, I would say. And the vocals are fantastic as well. They sing mainly in their mother tongue Finnish, which is like appropriate for the harshness of black metal vocals. But yeah, I absolutely love this band and they've got so many great albums. So Horna from Finland. Okay, coming up to I. Okay, now this is a really difficult choice. There are a lot of great bands beginning with I. For example, for me, it would be Impaled Nazarene and Immortal, definitely one of my favorite black metal bands. And if it wasn't for another band, Immortal would be my choice for this letter, but I had to go with Iron Maiden here. So classic new wave of British heavy metal, one of my favorite bands of all time that I've liked ever since I was a teen in the early 90s, and it's just timeless music, great quality heavy metal, and it's one of those bands, even when I think I've heard them a million times, which I have, whenever I put them on and get into it, I still really enjoy it. This is Killers. Actually, my favorite album by them is Somewhere in Time, probably, but I don't own that on CD or vinyl, shock horror, but this iconic picture of Eddie here is just classic. So Iron Maiden. Okay, coming up to J. I don't listen to many bands beginning with J, so this is an obvious choice. It is, of course, Judas Priest. Again, another British heavy metal band. I shouldn't even have to say that, should I? But yeah, absolutely classic. You may have heard me say this is probably my favorite heavy metal band of all time. Just unlike, Iron Maiden is more sort of, can be more sort of epic and atmospheric, whereas Judas Priest is more sort of straightforward hard rock / heavy metal. It's got that more sort of straightforward vibe, but absolutely awesome. And yes, this was the obvious choice for J. My favorite album, Screaming for Vengeance by Judas Priest. All right, coming up to K. Everyone all together now. Oh shit, I should have said actually, before I was going to say to some of you have watched my channel for so long, you can probably guess the bands I'm going to choose, so I wish I could have said that at the beginning. You could test yourself about how many of my answers you could predict. But okay, with K, you're probably going to get it right. It is, of course, Kiss, my favorite rock band of all time. Just absolutely brilliant stuff. I know it's not for everyone. A lot of metal fans hate Kiss. They sort of really divide the metal audience. Like, people either love them or hate them. But yeah, this band is just completely unique to me, like in terms of their sound and their attitude, their sentiment and everything. And this may be a bit controversial, but I prefer the 80s era to the 70s era, even though the 70s era is awesome as well, but the 80s went in a more heavy metal direction. And this is one of my favorite albums by them, Creatures of the Night from 1982, so that's Kiss. Okay, coming up to L, there are not many bands I listen to beginning with L, so this was an easy choice for me. Lividity from the US, so if you're not familiar, God, I can't speak properly, that's what happens when I speak too fast. If you're not familiar, they are a brutal death grind band from the US. They call themselves porn gore death metal, so you can get an idea of what the lyrics are about. They're very brutal and everything. Yeah, I find the lyrics a bit silly and immature actually, because it's very sort of like misogynistic and everything, combining gore and sex, but not in a very witty way. But however, it's the music which sells me on this band. They're absolutely brilliant. Like, it's very complex and technical, but underpinned by groove, and the vocals and the guitar tone are extremely heavy, and so there's just something sonically very satisfying about listening to this band. So if you like brutal death metal and you haven't checked it out, definitely do so. If you like bands like Gorgasm and stuff, Lividity. Okay, coming up to M, another letter with many brilliant bands. It has to be said. Like, let's talk about some of the big ones: Metallica, Megadeth, Motorhead. I could have chosen the Greek black metal band Medieval Demon, or the US death metal band Mortician. Just a moment. Can you believe it? My favorite black metal band of all time, and I forgot to pick them out, but for M, it's got to be Marduk, of course. So how many people got that right? I bet all of you. Yeah, just absolutely classic band. I've followed this band since the mid-90s, and I've always been a huge fan, and I like the music from all of the eras, from the very early stuff to the later stuff as well. So yeah, this is my favorite album by them, Those of the Unlight, and you've heard me say that a million times. Yeah, okay, so coming up to N now. Again, slim pickings for this letter, so the choice was obvious for me. Nocturnal Mortem from Ukraine, so this is yet another black metal band, but kind of interesting. They sort of emulated Emperor's sound with the symphonic style, yet also incorporated folky elements as well, and it's really epic and atmospheric. So Nocturnal Mortem, absolutely brilliant band. This was the first album I ever heard by them, Nechrist, and I think the first song I ever heard by them on a compilation was In the Fire of the Wooden Churches, which is brilliant. I remember thinking, that's got a flute solo, oh god, how corny, but then it grew on me over time, and absolutely great band. Probably my favorite album by this band is To the Gates of Blasphemous Fire, but this one, Nechrist, is great, so Nocturnal Mortem. Okay, coming up to O. Now, again, a letter with not many bands that I listen to, but the choice was obvious for me. Not Ozzy Osbourne, although I do like Ozzy Osbourne quite a bit, it has to be said. But yeah, obvious choice for O, Obituary, of course. As a massive fan of death metal, this is one of the most classic bands which started all, sort of considered the big four of Floridian death metal, one of them, along with Deicide, Cannibal Corpse, and Morbid Angel. But yeah, this is my favorite album by them, Cause of Death, and you know, their music is underpinned by groove. It also retains elements of thrash, and the vocals are unique as well. It sounds like they're kind of screamed, but sound like a gurgling drain or a sewer, but in a really interesting way. So Obituary. Okay. Coming up to the letter P now. Now, some people are going to be shocked by this. It's a more mainstream band, but I have no shame, and I don't care what you say. It's got to be Pantera. So this is, yeah, the first album from the Phil Anselmo era, Cowboys from Hell. And yeah, this is just, again, a nostalgia trip for me because I was a teen in the 90s. So in high school, I listened to this band a lot. And to be honest, to this day, I still really like them. I know a lot of people in the extreme metal world bitch and complain about this band so much. And a lot of people say it's like a testosterone-fueled tough C music. Like, obviously, I'm not like that. But regardless, I just really like the music. And it's almost like when I listen to this music, it's like meeting an old friend. So yes, Pantera, classic band. Okay, so coming up to the letter Q, there are not many choices for the letter Q. It's not Queen, even though obviously Queen have a lot of great songs, but I never got into them hugely like a lot of people did. Like most people in the UK, like the general population, but no, great band. But for Q, for me, it's Queensryche. So the progressive metal band from USA, Seattle, I think. And I was sort of a late starter to discover this band, but I really liked them. It sort of reminded me of elements of Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, but even more progressive and sort of futuristic in sound. And I really like the clean production and Jeff Tate's really soaring, high-pitched vocals. Just great stuff. So Queensryche for Q. Okay, coming up to the letter R. Okay, so this is another letter with slim pickings. Like one band I really like is Rollins' band, but I think the band I would say takes the crown for R, it's got to be Rat. So yeah, you can see what I mean by the diversity of genres in this video. So Rat is of course a famous glam/hair metal band. I hate that term glam metal actually, because when I think of glam, I think of like gloss and lipstick and nails, so that's more like Poison territory and stuff. But yeah, Rat, hair metal. But you know, a lot of people just apply stigma when they think hair metal. They think, oh, it's all tacky and cheesy. This was an absolutely fantastic band, like really hooky, really catchy, and I love Stephen Pearcy's abrasive vocal style. Like it's melodic yet harsh, really good. Like as someone said, sandpaper on chrome. But yeah, this is Dancing Undercover. I'm just showing this one because it shows a portrait of the band, but yeah, the first 3 or 4 albums by this band are excellent. So yeah, Rat for R. Okay, coming up to S. Okay, there are many bands again. I could have chosen Satyricon, the Norwegian black metal band, or Summon, the US black death thrash metal band. Some of my favorites under S, but for S, the t-shirt has got to be a giveaway here. It's got to be Satanic Warmaster, the one-man black metal band from Finland. Well, primarily one man, apart from when he's performing live, and then he includes session members. But this is absolutely great, like very emotive, raw black metal, sort of on the lo-fi side, but the riffs are just so melodic and emotive. I know some people think that word is dumb. I don't understand why. But it's a fucking word in the English language, but it's emotive because it evokes emotion, it creates emotion. But yeah, really good. So sort of inspired by bands such as Dark Throne and Burzum and Judas Iscariot, but also including some keyboards and acoustic guitars occasionally. But it's just so atmospheric, it's absolutely brilliant. And he's pretty much, most of the albums he's done are excellent. My favorite is Carillion Satanist Madness, but I'm just minimizing records I'm showing here. So this one is Revelation of the Night. But yeah, Satanic Warmaster, brilliant project or band. Okay, coming up to T, again, slim pickings for this letter, so the choice was obvious. I went with Thornspawn from the USA. So if you're not familiar, Thornspawn, as you can see by the corpse paint here, are a black metal band from Texas, and they've been around since the late 90s, I think, but I remember reading about this band in Terrorizer magazine in the year 2000, I think, and it was an interesting interview. It caught my eye, so I bought this shortly afterwards. I'll say, if you like bands such as Dark Funeral, Dark Throne, Mayhem, and Marduk, definitely check this band out. And the vocals are really screamy, the drums are really heavy and clattery, and the drummer is the vocalist in this band. They've gone through a few lineup changes over the years, but have always remained true to the cause of, you know, pure, true black metal, you can say. But yeah, absolutely dedicated to it. For me, if I was to recommend one album, it would be this one, which is Blood of the Holy, Taint Thy Steel. Fantastic stuff. So Thornspawn for the letter T. Okay, for the letter U. Okay, at first I thought that's an obvious choice, Ulver, right, from Norway. But then, really, I only liked the first 3 albums by them, which was their sort of black metal folk era. I liked the one after that, William Blake's themes from William Blake's Marriage of Heaven and Hell is an interesting album, but it's a bit patchy and hit and miss for me. After that, they became a full-on electronic band, and I haven't really kept up with them. I know I probably should check out some of their other releases, but anyway, for me, a much more consistent band for the letter U is Unleashed. So Sweden's Unleashed, who are a sort of Viking-themed melodic death metal band. Oh, are they melodic? Yeah, they've got those tinges of Swedish melody, but it's heavier than a donkey's balls. It's like really crushing, really groovy. It's fantastic. And I saw this band at Dark Easter in Germany in 2019, and there were loads of black and death metal bands, but this was actually my favorite band of the whole festival. They were just so catchy and so heavy, so great live. So yeah, Unleashed from Sweden. Okay, coming up to V now. That's this one's hard. Like, I could have gone with Varathron, the Greek black metal band, but to be honest, they're sort of a band I've only been getting into the last few years, and there's still a lot which remains to be discovered. But yeah, Varathron would be a contender, but I actually went with Vargrav, which is the one-man black metal band from Finland. Again, this sort of emulates early Emperor. So if you like Emperor's In the Night Side Eclipse, definitely check out Vargrav. This is Reign in Supreme Darkness, the second album. He also has the other, Netherstorm, and I got the new one just recently, and there's another new one now, so I can't keep up. This band is very prolific, and it also includes Werewolf from Satanic Warmaster as a member. So yeah, if you like Emperor, Satanic Warmaster, and Satanic Warmaster, check out Vargrav. Okay, and W. So I'm assuming, because I like black metal, a lot of people are going to guess that I would go with Watain, but no, actually not. I'm not the biggest fan of Watain, to be honest. Like, nothing against them. I don't hate them, I don't disrespect them, but they just don't really excite me much. Their music, it's okay, but I find it a bit sort of generic. Like, they're often compared to Mayhem and Dissection, and I never got the Dissection comparison. Like, they are good, but I just think, if I want to hear that kind of sound, I'll listen to Mayhem or Dissection. But yeah, Watain is okay, but not my favorite. So for W, this might be a surprise for people, I actually went with Warrant. So the hair metal band from the US, very famous in the early 90s. Everyone knows them as the Cherry Pie Band because, you know, that was their famous song. And it was a bit cheesy, but it was still fun. So if you're judging the band based on that, don't. Like, this album, Dog Eat Dog, which is the one which came after it, is excellent. Sort of like going in a more sort of 90s direction, but this is an absolutely brilliant album, as is their debut, DRFSR. So if you just like fun, catchy, anthemic hair metal, check out Warrant. But the first 3 albums especially, I really like. So yeah, Warrant for W. Now, letter Y. I don't know many bands beginning with Y at all. When I was at Steelfest a few years ago, I saw the Finnish black metal band Ymir, Y-M-I-R, and they were really good, but I couldn't say they're my favorite band because all I've heard by them is what I saw on the actual day. So, oh wait. I forgot X, didn't I? So let's talk about X first. So X, slim pickings for this letter, but it's okay because the choice was easy. I went with Zaster, the one-man DSBM, like depressive black metal from the US. So created by a guy called Scott Connor. And yeah, this is really good. I just really like the unique, bleak and sorrowful style that he does, and it's like when you listen to this style of black metal, it's like walking through an endless maze of mirrors of misery. It's hard to describe, but it's just so bleak, but it's really emotional, and I really like it. And Scott seems like a pretty cool guy as well. So Zaster for X. Okay, so I went into my big spiel about Y, the letter Y, and I didn't choose Ymir. This might come out of left field. I went with Yes. So the prog band from the UK, which emerged in the 70s, I think. This is an 80s album called, I always forget the number, 90125. It included Trevor Rabin as one of the main songwriters and vocalists. But yeah, this is more sort of a synth rock record. But yeah, a lot of prog fans probably know, yes, they were one of the most influential prog bands. But I like this 80s style, which they did. So I've got this one on vinyl as well. But I'm not really familiar with their 70s albums. So any Yes fans, tell me, what albums do you recommend by them? So yeah, by default, it's Yes for Y. And coming up to the letter Z, or Z, however you say it, I went with Zephyrus from Greece. So again, you can probably tell this is a black metal band. I discovered them in the late 90s. This is a very interesting band because they don't play that typical Greek style like Rotting Christ and Varathron. Like, it's more sort of harsh and primitive than that, yet it's also very melodic, like with the inclusion of keyboards and acoustic guitars, but just in a very raw way. And like Dreamlord's vocals sound a bit Burzamic, but also like they're just being screamed inside a cave or something. But it's got this very primitive yet atmospheric sound, which I really love. So this is their first album, Entrance and Wandering on the Seven Zones. They did do another one after that called Towards, but that was very sort of progressive and experimental. I didn't like that much. There's an EP that I'm hoping to get by them, but I'm saying if you like black metal, and especially Greek black metal, definitely check out Zephyrus. Yeah. Okay, so there it is, guys. 26 minutes, not as bad as I thought. So roughly, excluding the intro and everything, about 1 minute per letter. Am I rambling on? Probably am, so I'll shut the fuck up. All right, so I hope you enjoyed the video. And as I said, I welcome comments, but please don't just list the bands that I mentioned. Otherwise, it might spoil it for other potential viewers. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks a lot for your support of the channel. And to Quest for Metal, thanks, it was a great idea. So like I said, I did one for my top 10 favorite bands as a response to Maze of Torment, but this one's a bit more extensive and it'll give you an insight into my musical taste, hopefully, if you care. So anyway, I'll be back again soon. In the meantime, take care and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers, bye.